Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I feel the sleepy.
You feel sleepy?
I feel the sleepy.
Did you get to bed late last night?
It wasn't that late, but we did stay up and watch some Christmas movies.
We did. Did we like them?
Yes.
I know we watched two.
The second one was a surprise because we'd seen the trailer for it last year. It was not a Hallmark Christmas movie, but it had that sentimentality. Father Christmas Returns.
Comes back, I think. Father Christmas comes back, I think.
Or is home or is back. What wasn't clear until more than halfway through the movie to me was the family's last name is Christmas. Mm-hmm. It's set in England. It's a father who left 27 years earlier on Christmas Day. And just, it was not what I expected. Mm-hmm. We had looked at the trailer last year and decided it wasn't our cup of tea, and saw a different trailer this year and said, well, let's try it. And it was not bad. The other one we watched was a Hallmarky movie, and I think they put all their money into getting two actors that I enjoy in Hallmark movies, and lost the script. There were sweet elements to it. It was
Yeah, we got to the end of the movie and we went, this needed about 15 minutes less somewhere in the middle and about 15 minutes more at the end.
Yeah. Okay. Let's find our tea.
Okay.
Today is the 16th, which is right here.
It is the 16th.
It is the 16th. And the 16th tea is sweet tart.
Sweet tart.
I do like sweet tarts. Okay, this is a fruit infusion. Apple pieces, raisins, carrot pieces, hibiscus. The artificial flavoring is cherry and cream. There are beetroot pieces, sugar hearts, sugar, rice flour, coconut butters, cornstarch, beetroot concentrate, coloring, white hibiscus blossoms, red blossoms, sour cherries.
Most of those ingredients sound fine. I don't know why a tea needs coloring.
I don't either. Because it's a fruit infusion, it is no caffeine. It is 5+ minutes.
Okay, 5+ minutes. We can do that.
It smells yummy. It does smell yummy.
Definitely smells like a fruit infusion. I think there might be some sticky elements to it, probably the sugar or the fruit bits or something, because it really did not want to come out of the tin.
That's fair.
Okay. This one's doing better than yesterday's. So we're into the last full week before Christmas.
Yep.
It's really surprising. We were having a conversation yesterday after church. I was having a conversation yesterday after church with one of our church families, and made the statement of, oh, next Sunday's the last Sunday before Christmas. And we all kind of looked at each other and went, my goodness, it's moved fast. Really feels like the season has really flown.
Yeah, we have a lot to do in the next day and tomorrow. One of our parishioners, one of my congregants, it was an exchange student this year, mm-hmm. and they are going back. Their exchange program ends, and they're going to be flying on Christmas Eve. And so we're having them over for some board games and some other friends, and we're gonna have a meal and board games. I think I mentioned that, and more board games. And we haven't actually fully, like, we got up these decorations. We set up the artificial tree.
The tree is still there undecorated. It's right there.
And just life. This is one of the latest I've ever actually fully decorated for Christmas, and it feels... There was one time before we made the dinner plans that I'm like, well, do we want to just leave it like this? And I was like, but that will make you sad. I'm like, it does. We should do it. Anyway, tonight, tomorrow, the rest of the decorations go up. Are you ready for Christmas? That's my question to you. Are you ready for Christmas? That's not today's question, but are you feeling ready for Christmas? I feel ready for Christmas. I just don't feel ready in our house.
I should have left the spoon out.
Because it's thick, so it's blocking the...
Yeah, I don't know. This tea kettle was doing great right up until yesterday, and now it just seems, the last 2 or 3 days, it just seems to not be draining.
So for the clear tea kettle, instead of having like a number of openings, it has like slits at the bottom. And
every corner of the round thing. So basically on four spots 90 degrees from each other around the circle is 3 very, very, very thin little slits, which means that A, it's really difficult to clean because all of the little bits of the tea get stuck in those slits, and B, it doesn't actually have a lot of drainage space.
so I realized I had a sheet with the last of my questions, and I don't know what happened to it.
I thought it was one of those blue ones over there.
This
It's not it.
is not
You know
it.
what?
This is
I know where it is.
Christmas songs, and this was a table of contents for my last paper.
I think I know where it is. Yes, I do know where it is. I think you got the right in. Here? No, I
No.
don't know where it is. I'm sorry. I had seen it at one point, and I had set it aside. Well, I'd set aside the entire pack of, because it was on your blue stack of notes, and I'd put it aside somewhere. And I don't remember where I put it down to clean up.
So I had a question for today,
Excellent.
and I don't know what it was.
Excellent.
What does Christmas morning look like? That is today's question. What happens on Christmas morning for you?
For me,
Yeah, traditional. We've been talking about Christmas traditions.
sleep until about 2 in the afternoon, and
Is that no, you're not ready for Christmas?
for me, I'm not quite. I don't get as excited now as I did when I was a kid,
You're no longer a child. That makes sense.
for multitude of reasons.
I understand that. I still like, unless we've stayed up till 2 or 3 the night before, and that happened once, I am still like up at 4, up at 5. I know nobody else wants to be up that early. I don't actually want to be up and stay up that early. 6, I might get up. Like, I might get out of bed, but I wake up at 6. And I think 6:30 is when I get up and I start making, like, putting the hot water on for people's tea and coffee. I make some warm beverages for people. 7 is when I finally start banging on the doors because I am awake, so the world needs to be awake. Christmas Day is the one day of the year where I'm a morning person.
I've always been a morning person. My thing with Christmas isn't the morning of, it's the night before. I have a tendency of, I'm still excited for Christmas, so I still have a harder time falling asleep the night before. So there have been times where I've been awake till 1 in the morning, anxious for Christmas
The
morning.
excitement and joy of Christmas morning.
But then I don't wake up early. I wake up kind of a normalish time, 7:30, 8 o'clock.
less that now that I'm like, Alex, wake up, Alex, it's Christmas, Alex, it's Christmas.
And then I pretend to sleep even longer.
Oh, it's true. But okay, so you're up, you're out of bed. What happens first at my house? Because you've been the last 5 Christmases. You've been at my place, my parents' family.
Yeah, we obviously pajamas get into, like, nobody really gets dressed until later. So
Actually, I go out of my like sleepy, comfy jammies and put on Christmas uncomfy jammies.
So we all collect in the living room, and we go through our stockings first, and then we go through presents, and then we have like a Christmas breakfast brunch.
Yeah. And like we go through our stock. I grew up where it was just me and my parents. And then when Leanne came around, she added to our numbers, but it was like when I was 19. So one person pulls one thing out of the stock. And like our Christmas morning takes a long time. It's lovely. It's glorious. It's my favorite thing. But one person will pull something out of their sock and it will probably be wrapped, and they unwrap it. And everybody goes, ooh, ah. And then it goes on to the next person until everyone's stock is empty. And then we do the same thing where one person is elected elf. It's either my sister or me normally. And each person is given a present. And then we pick who's going first. And that person opens. And everybody oohs and ahs. And then the next person goes. And we go that until the tree's empty. And then we sit there and chat for a few minutes. And then somebody says, well, I think it's time to start breakfast. And
then your dad makes pancakes.
And yeah, it's pancakes and bacon and other wonderful goodness of things. And that's Christmas morning traditions. And I know that's not unique. Like there's a number of people who will open a gift the night before. Oh, the other thing we'll do is, even though everybody in the house is grown adults, we still leave a plate of cookies for Santa and carrots for the reindeer, and Santa Claus leaves us a note, so that gets read in the morning, and we look for the bits of carrots out the back door, and just little things, even when we might know why and how the carrots got there. We do it every year.
Yes, mostly you and your sister.
Mostly me and my sister. And then before we were together, normally the next thing after brunch would be people would take a book they got, or Leanne and I would take a movie that one of us got, and we'd go watch the movie or read the book, take a nap, and then around 3 or 4, maybe 2, food supper preps would be going on, and we would have supper, and then the evening would be a Christmas movie. Or one of our big family traditions happens either Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, and this year it's actually going to happen on the 21st, is since about 2012, I make a annual Christmas lights scavenger hunt, and it will be something like find a house with only white lights, find a house with more than 3 inflatables in the yard, find a house, and it will be a number of scavenger hunts, and we go out and we go hunting for scavenger like lights. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to do that on the 21st this year. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Christmas morning.
Yeah.
And that's what I expect on Christmas Day. We're reading a devotional. It's a new one. It's only 5 parts. And it is somebody whose Christmas plans don't go the way they expect. It's called Sydney Jane and the Not Fair Christmas. Today's devotional is called Road Trip. So yesterday we found out, all we know is there was a change in plans. And Sydney exclaimed, Christmas is officially ruined. We don't know what the change of plans are, but it's not what Sydney wanted. Road trip. Christmas was getting complicated. Sydney thought the week before Christmas should be filled with cocoa, movies, and matching pajamas. But instead, Sydney and her mom were driving to the home of Grandma Honey, and her cousins were going there too. It's only for a few days, Sid, and you never get to see your cousins, her mom said. She looked at Sydney through the rearview mirror. In response, Sydney narrowed her eyes and crossed her arms. Sydney was wearing her grumpy pants.
Yes, she was. I like this response. The last few years, we go to visit family on Christmas Day, so we don't open gifts until night. When we get back, that reminds me very much of the story of when I was a kid and we went to my aunt's
I had to
place.
wait till after Christmas dinner.
Yeah, to open presents at my aunt's place. I thought it was, as a child, I thought it was very unfair.
After a few minutes, Mom cleared her throat and said, "You know, our change in plans reminds me of the first Christmas." Ugh! That's such a kid's response. Here we go again. I wonder how old Sydney's supposed to be. Because there's times I think she's 7 or 8, and there are times I think she's 16.
Maybe she's a bit of both.
Sydney groans, but then softened. "You mean the Christmas that wasn't fair?" Mom nodded. "Yes, that one." Sydney scrunched her forehead. "But how?" Mary and Joseph were about to have a baby when Caesar Augustus decided to do a census. Do you know what that is? I think we talk about it at church. Everyone had to go to their hometown to be counted. Right. So instead of getting ready for the baby, Mary and Joseph had to change their plans. They wanted to stay in their cozy home preparing for a baby, but instead they went on a road trip to Bethlehem. But even this road trip was part of God's plan for them. Sid, even this plan. Sydney looked out the trees that blurred as they passed. "Okay, Mom, I get it. We didn't want to go out of town for Christmas, but maybe God has a plan for it." "I know he does, Sid," Mom whispered. "I know he does." And now we have some questions.
Okay.
Have you ever made plans to go on a trip that got canceled? How did that make you feel? Well, I've had it happen a number of times. The one that comes to my head right now is in 2025, it's a big family year for us. So my parents' 50th, our 5th, and my sister turns 25, all in one year. And so for the last 7, 8 years, we've been talking about doing a family trip of some kind. And the first plan just didn't come together. There was one specific plan that we all talked about. And when it came close enough, none of us were financially in the place anymore to do what we had talked about 8 years ago, 7 years ago. And so we came up with a second plan, and I started putting a lot of thinking into it, and it came up that that plan wasn't going to work either. And having to adjust my brain over the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks to a new plan. At first, I wasn't quite as grumpy as Sydney. Like, I had already accepted, like, this is going to need to change, but there were things I was starting to get very excited about at the first location. So the time to adjust, I felt much like Sydney of, but I want to do this. This is what it's kind of like if you have in your mind that tonight we're having spaghetti and then realize nobody had, like, there's no spaghetti, or you have a specific restaurant, like we're going to go for sushi tonight, and you get to the restaurant and realize, oh, they're not open on Mondays. What else do you want? And you're like, but for the last 6 hours, I've been thinking sushi. The adjustment for me, like that transition, sometimes is really challenging.
So the closest thing I can think of to that, I mean, we've been part of this big family trip planning, but because at no point did deposits get made, at no point did plane tickets get purchased, there was less disappointment for me because it wasn't real until the money was put down and the things were booked. The one that I remember was
I know which story this is.
a number of years ago. I had purchased plane tickets to go down to Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. And I got to the airport, presented my ticket, presented my passport, and they said, where's your visa? And I went, what do you mean? What visa? They said, you need a visa to get on the plane. I said, but I looked and there is no requirement for a visa. They said, well, I'm trying to put your ticket information in, and it says right here, I need a visa number. I can't continue this process without it. So I stepped out of line, and I took a moment and made some phone calls and discovered that so there's two different websites of information. There is the Canadian Embassy in Brazil, and then there's the Brazilian Embassy in Canada. There's two different websites. And the Canadian Embassy in Brazil says that Canadians can go to Brazil, no visa requirements required. But the Brazilian Embassy in Canada requires a tourist visa for any North American traveling to Brazil. And that that disconnect caused me to not be able to go on the vacation. I was very distraught. There was a number of things that had happened. One was I didn't have a car. I'd been dropped off at the airport, so I now needed to find a way of getting from the airport back home. I then needed to call the Brazilian Embassy in Canada to find out if there was a way of even getting the visa. A lot of things happened, and there was a lot of disappointment. Luckily, everything was able to be sorted out. I was able to get my ticket issued for the next day. I was able to get an emergency visa issued that day from the embassy. They were very, very, very kind. It all worked out. I lost one day of travel. But for about 4 to 6 hours in there, I thought I wasn't going to be able to go, and I was very, very, very upset.
Yeah.
And rather sad. Luckily, it all worked out.
I would have had a small meltdown.
I did have a small meltdown in the middle of the airport.
Did you have a temper tantrum or just a meltdown?
Tears were flowing, and I was basically crying as I was trying to figure everything out.
That would have been my reaction. The next question from the devotion is, do you think the road trip for Mary and Joseph was hard? What made it hard? I think traveling back and forth from where we know that they started from to Bethlehem, which is only about 10 miles south of Jerusalem, I think that in itself wouldn't have been that challenging because a number of people would make that journey once a year for Passover. Mm-hmm. I think the place that would have been challenging is Mary was pregnant.
Yeah,
we don't know if there was a donkey or not. There could have been a donkey. There might not have been. Harold. His name is Harold. Last year I did a puppet skit with a donkey named Harold.
I suspect that any travel at that time probably had its own complications. It's also probably everybody was used to it by the time they hit an adult age because everybody had to do traveling for, whether it be for festivals, for just getting to visit people outside of their region, whatever. So my guess is they knew what they were expecting with the travel. They'd done it before, but also knew what hardships are going to be involved.
What can you do to trust God when his plans differ from yours?
Same thing I said yesterday, listening prayer.
Listening prayer? Yeah. I find we had a setback about something recently, as recent as this summer. And when I was just like, this doesn't make sense, the thing that I did first was sit down and pray. Mm-hmm. And the prayer didn't change the hard that we were about to go through.
Right.
But it gave me comfort and peace to know that God was in control. God is God and I am not, and it was going to be okay. And it has been okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you want to say that?
I was just...
Can you add to my tea?
Not easily. Not without making a mess.
Oh.
You can finish mine if you want.
Did you not like it?
I don't mind it. It's just by that point by the time it's that little left, it starts getting cold, and I don't like cold tea. I was trying to think. There was something I can't remember if it was watching. I think we were watching something, and something had happened, and there was a younger person involved who was very upset. And they looked to I think it was their mother or whoever was the adult figure in this thing, and said, "Why aren't you upset?" And the person's response was, "This is going to happen either way. the only control we have is our attitude towards it.
I have no idea what this was, but
I
it
don't know.
sounds like great advice.
And so yeah, and that's kind of stuck with me of the if suddenly, I think I'd seen it on Facebook at one point. There was this meme of the if you're out on a walk and suddenly a rainstorm hits, you can either be miserable and wet, or you can have joy and be wet. But either way, you're still going to get wet.
Yeah.
And it's yeah,
There's a prayer.
there is a prayer.
Dear God, we know your plans are better than ours. Sometimes we know it, but we don't always feel it. We don't always see what you're doing. Help us to trust you when we can't see your plan. Amen.
Amen.
Something this devotional has been ending with is a picture. So today's picture is a lovely winter road trip scene. Okay. And there are prayers, or there are verses.
There are verses, there are scriptures. Ooh, we are not in the book of Luke right away. We're in the book of Micah. 5:2. Oh, I recognize this one. This may have been stated yesterday during church.
It was in my sermon.
But you, Bethlehem Ephrathah, Ephrathah, though you are small among the clans of Judah, out of you will come for me one who will be ruler over Israel, whose origins are from of old, from ancient times. Now we're in Luke, chapter 2, verses 1 to 4. In those days, Caesar Augustus issued a decree that a census should be taken of the entire Roman world. This was the first census that took place while Quirinius was governor of Syria. And everyone went to their own town to register. So Joseph also went up from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to Bethlehem, the town of David, because he belonged to the house and line of David. And we have a Proverbs 19:21. Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails.
And we are done.
And that is our...
And that is one more day in Sydney Jane's and the Not Fair Christmas. I'm enjoying her little story, which is why I chose this one. So the tea was lovely. Yes. I find it very tart.
Oh, really? I was going to say it's quite sweet for me.
I think there's a tang from the cherry.
Okay. Yeah, because it's sour cherry.
It is sour cherry. I like it as a tea. I would put it probably a 3.5, 4. And yet, I don't know if I would buy it as a holiday tea. So far, the only one that I'm like, ooh, we really need to have that in our collection is Sleigh Ride.
Not Snickerdoodle?
I enjoyed Snickerdoodle, but you did not.
Right, but that doesn't mean we can't have it in the collection, so you can have it every once in a while. And as I said, because it's sweet, if we purposely had it as a dessert tea where I knew it was coming in sweet and that I was expecting it, it would be a different situation.
Yeah.
Because when I was washing out the pot, I was like, you know what? That I know it's sweet, but that smells kind of nice. And I do enjoy that when I'm expecting it. It's just, I don't expect a sweet tea first thing in the morning.
That's fair. But yes, I did enjoy that tea. That tea was a good tea. Friends, we will head out now. It's a little... our original plan was to keep things under like 15 to 20 minutes, and it